So let's see if it has come. Yeah, I think LinkedIn is still to move. Uh, Priyan, whatever the lighting you have put up, it's like very focused on you.
Yeah, I have no option actually.
Oh, you
The
had a
light
power
is
button.
coming in and coming going out.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so
so this
we
is just
have.
a fail safe.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think we have a few people, I suppose, in. Or is it only like three of us? So
Are you able to check it?
I'm just looking at that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep, yep. Okay, so how can I check who has in?
Just a second.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. You were saying something?
No, no, I was just saying like let us check who's. Oh yeah, Anmol is there. Okay. Hey, hi Anmol, welcome. So we have some people in, which is great.
Yeah, I think it is showing me four right now. Four people have joined.
Yeah.
It's showing me only one over here.
Sorry, the one second. Yeah. Sorry, the room sharing. But yeah, I think yep. So hi Anmol, thanks for being here. So, oh, wow, that feels very weird to look at yourself in LinkedIn. But yeah, so the great part is that today, basically, what we are going to talk about is a discussion we have been having for quite some time, which is how does traditional education work in today's time with all the changes happening with AI coming into picture and a lot of non-traditional sources of education cropping up everywhere. So to clarify before we start, what we mean by traditional education is your standard, Indian education system of graduations and post graduations and masters. So your BSc, BComs, B like those sort of education tracks. So to introduce, so myself, I'm Makarand. I'm a lead designer at Glassdoor. Uh, in the you and Priyan can introduce yourself.
Sure.
Hi,
Thanks,
my
Makran.
name.
And that was a very nice short introduction.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
Priyan.
I would just build upon it, right? Like traditional education, when we say traditional education, it is also about the curriculums and the degrees which are affiliated within the government. So Ministry of Human Resources Department, they see to it that AECTE and UGC, they are making sure all the time that the curriculum is approved by them. That is what we definitely can mean by traditional or formal education systems. But yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Priyan. Uh, I'm an architect by profession, and since then I have had this journey of becoming a creative journalist. I have 7+ years of teaching experience, formal teaching experience. I have taught in few architectural and design colleges in Gujarat. So yeah,
Yeah, in the we can see you now.
Yes. Hello there, and I would like to build upon what both of them said. Usually, I come from a very traditional education with a old design degree as such. And for me personally, it has helped a lot, and it has also helped me grow in terms of networking, in terms of gaining more, insider information. And well, I think one of the most important aspects over here is you get to meet a lot of mentors. Your teachers are from a very high respected background, and they tell you things which you generally tend to miss out when you're self learning or you're trying to build upon yourself. and I'm a junior designer at Ncube Salesforce right now.
Hmm.
I have previously worked with Mercedes-Benz, and I worked with Pictogram and global brand designing studios.
Yeah. And one note which I sort of missed out was my background is I was an analyst before getting into design, and so I have come from the most non-traditional channel, which is complete self-study. And obviously, I did HFI course later, but like I started into design as a freshly directly mentored by designers when I was in IBM, and I've been into design now for like 8 plus years. So yeah. So one of the first things which we wanted to discuss was where does currently traditional education stand when it comes to topics like design? Because one of the aspects of design is that it's a continuously improving or continuously updating field, and the speed of change, I would say, over last 5 to 10 years has been tremendously fast for a normal college or for a normal setup to keep up. And that's what originally sprung this whole thought of like what would work, like how we can improve it. Obviously a traditional education is helpful because it gives you a platform, it gives you like foot in the door with your labels. So I'm not denying it, nobody else is like saying it, the one is right, one is wrong, but we thought a sort of a discussion across the board will help. So Prayan, as you have the background in teaching, so could you take this?
Sure. I mean, see, what you said is very, very right, right? Traditional education, or let's call it formal education, it is important. Yes. Why is it important? Is it is important for hands-on activities. It is important for peer-to-peer learning. That is when you're sitting inside a classroom with your fellow students, fellow colleagues, and you learn from each other, right? It is important when it comes to Ivy League colleges where you can network and you can have strengthen that network from the college itself. But if we don't talk about um, networking side of things, that is colleges which provide these networks, then there are only two things which are very, very crucial when it comes to formal education. That is peer-to-peer learning, and second one was hands-on learning. As we all know, we live in a time where we can't. So there was always a conundrum when I was teaching that senior faculties were always used to tell the students, right, that they should not be allowed to use phones while learning. And that is well and good. Yes, phones can be distraction, especially when we're talking about learning and educating ourselves, but there is no scientific evidence backing that decision. So whatever research we have seen so far shows that phones, not phones, rather social media is distracting, right? But what we don't understand as educators, especially in formal education, I'm talking strictly about formal education, I'm talking about challenges even from an educator side of things, right? That when I'm teaching in a classroom setting and if I tell my students not to use phones, fine. But what would happen is they'll create a FOMO. And once they'll go back to their houses, instead of doing their actual classwork, they'll use their phones. As simple as that. Because they're human beings and they're students, they're teenagers. And yeah, that is why one of the biggest reasons we have seen drop in assignment completion rates since a really long time now. And that is one of the biggest challenge we see in formal education, where students are not self motivated, right? So all these things happen because students come inside these courses because their parents push them to, right? And when they're spending 2 lakh rupees per year, and given that 4 years is like a norm in India for a graduation course, it's almost like 8 to 10 lakh rupees eventually. Now, as a designer, I don't think them getting that returns very quickly. And you are a very good example of where informal education or self learning, motivated learning can really, really help strengthen your core skills and then build upon it. Right. So there are my preconceived, I wouldn't say preconceived notion, but my observations so far and also what I have studied so far. But yeah, I mean, in
Hmm.
there you can also like take this further.
Yeah. So if to set a context, I think in the you have like studied design as a as like a graduation track, if I'm not wrong.
So I have done so I have pursuing my finishing my degree. So I was graduating this September,
Ah.
and I have had that whole 4 year traditional bachelor degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely agree with the motivation part. With the self learning, you are more prompted to search for answers and ask why. But usually, what happens in a traditional setting is that your why is not answered. You're like, someone has written something or proven something, and you have to do the same thing. And things work in a certain way. Do not ask why. And when you reflect back to any student who is more curious or who is more enthusiastic, they would definitely tend to pull away from it, because if the why is not answered, then the what will not be questioned. And coming back to the design set of traditional learning, you are encouraged to unlearn first. So so they basically, whatever notions you had about design is basically unlearned. They basically prove that whatever you know is wrong, and then they build upon it. And then you start asking why. Let's say if you're trying out a new concept, why are you trying with the first question, and then what are you going to do with it as the second question.
Mm-hmm.
And usually in an entire span of 4 years, it is pretty rigorous when it comes to a traditional design degree course. It's pretty, you know you have quarters, you have semesters, and in each quarter you are pushed to perform better than the previous one. So in a way, you tend to look out for answers which not only exist in four corners of your classroom, but you're prompted to go out. You're prompted to get inspiration from the most random things. I have had my colleagues get inspirations from a carton box, like from an ice cream packaging. And although I do agree, traditional learning as well as self-motivated learning has its own pros and cons. But the fundamental question still remains, is the college, or are you able to answer why? If the why is answered, then the what will automatically come. So this is what I had to tell.
Yeah. I think one good point which you brought up was the whole semesters and quarters, like basically the breakup of a education system, and something which Priyan was bringing up, which we were talking about, was with the new education policy which exists, which government has brought in. The whole point of, okay, you can do a first year and then take a break, you can do, or you can do till like second year and take a break, and that is still valued. I think that's something which, which will be really matter. Like, let's say if you start a course and you want to switch a track, and all those are really helpful. So Prayan, if you can expand on that a little, about it.
Sure. So before going there, let's understand how currently the system works, right? If it is a 4 year course, it's usually 8 semesters in majority of the Indian colleges. Now, what happens is per semester you have 30 to 32 credits which you need to achieve. When I am enrolled as a student, what's happening currently is I can finish 2 semester, hence I've actually finished or achieved 64 credits of coursework. But because there is no standardized system throughout Pan India, my credits are not stored anywhere. They're just mark sheets and transcripts. The national education policy does few things. One is they have created an annual bank of credits (ABC) for students. That is, it's a national system. It's a digitalized system where your credits are stored, and every student has their own number. So now, when I've already achieved 64 credits, NEP allows me to store that, maybe take a break or reevaluate the course I am in, and then again rejoin it with the same number of credits. That is one of the biggest advantage NEP has, which the formal traditional education system currently lacks. Yes, the NEP will take time to get into colleges, but I know certain colleges, even in Gujarat, from where I belong, where they already started doing this. Right? They have already started, you know, change their curriculum according to the NEP. Now, the biggest issue, as Inder said, right, it is very extensive. It is very, you don't have even a second of time as a student when you are a design education. It's really nice, it's amazing, but I've seen students who suffer because of it. If you have a strength of 40, there are only 5 students who actually become good designers out of them, and that's a fact. 35 of the students are only going to understand what design is even after 4 years. And what happens is, because they're enrolled in formal education and there is a taboo of quitting your graduation, they cannot do anything else, they are stuck. So they are not motivated, they are stuck in that course, and their credits are stuck as well. So all of this combined, the students will not go inside the campus, they'll just go outside the campus to the galla, right? And this is a very general notion.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is something I would like to say for now, like in this sense that there are definitely very very good parts, there are a lot of good parts of traditional education for sure, especially hands to hands learning with educators and other students, which you cannot replicate so far, because we have not gone into metaverse and we are not talking about those things. But we are not able to replicate those things when we talk about a two-dimensional YouTube or a Coursera education.
Yeah.
Yes, when we talk about boot camps which are hands-on in real life, maybe that learning is incorporated, but then those are unchecked and unregulated, so it has its own demerits.
Hmm.
What do you say? I mean, Makarand, you have, like you said, you have self-taught yourself. How was your
Yeah.
journey? I mean,
So basically, I would say my journey was from a standpoint of one key thing was to get a good mentor. Like so that is one thing. Even like in traditional education, you have like if you like a course, you find a teacher. If you find the right teacher only, then you like a course. Like generally, that's the structure. And the same thing is in professional system. If you're, let's say, if you're going to non-traditional pathways, like you need to find a good mentor who is going to guide you. And so and mentor is not so mentor and teacher are two very different things. Like a teacher will tell you okay the syllabus and like train you, whereas mentor will only like tell you okay this is the direction you can look, but then you have to take those steps.
right,
So that is the difference in that model. So if you're doing going like a non-traditional pathways of like a boot camp or like self-learning the way I did, it requires quite a strong amount of discipline of your own self-discipline, basically to track and maintain and keep finding learning sources. And even after like 8 to 9 years of experience of doing this, it's just I that is one track I keep myself open, that I keep finding stuff to learn, and that is the only way you can grow in any industry, but especially in design and development is for sure. Another key aspect for me when it comes to self learning is not to be scared of stuff, like because so in colleges, so generally in sort of traditional setups, you are you're studying in a bubble. You have a schedule around you, okay, what's the next thing you are supposed to study. It's has a pattern to it, which does not exist in a unstructured
right,
setup. Like you're like you I will tell you frankly, like when I started design, one of the first sites I opened was Dribble, and I got like scared because don't come from visual design backgrounds. For me, it was like, oh, I have to build this, whether I will be able to build it. But then over a period of time, I learned that not everybody has to do that thing, like the same stuff. Like there are so many variety of things. There is user research, there is information architecture, there is interaction design. There are a lot of aspects to it, and those I was able to learn slowly. So I would say that's sort of a negative for it. But one thing which I would say for traditional education is, frankly, I would say at the age of 18, when you make your decision of graduation, uh, you are not that aware of what you want to be. Like one of the challenges which, so to give another context of it, so by graduation I'm a microbiologist, so I'm a BSc microbiology. And so it's like you might love the subject at that time and maybe, but that is not the career you are envisioning, because you cannot think at 18, okay, that's how my next 20 years or 30 years would be. Maybe parents generation it was possible because things were settled, but especially somebody who is born now in the like post 2010s and like sort of like coming up, it's going to be a different world by the time they even like finish their 10th or 12th, let alone the graduation. So that whole aspect of allowing them to change tracks, allowing them to pause a learning somewhere and do go and do a job and then come back to learning is something which is going to be very critical, and that I would say is like, should be there, and everybody should explore. Like, we have a lot of avenues, we have a lot of free courses out there for you to explore, to try out a certain track and talk to people, find your mentors, talk to them, and then if you feel, okay, this track works for me, shift to it. Like, that might be a better way to go about it. Yeah.
Right. And I think so. I would say two things in this, right? Like, because I relate very much with you more than Inder, because Inder has been going through a formal UX education, right? I have been trained as an architect, but even and my college was not Ivy League. It was in some town in Gujarat. Now, when I was in my thesis, which is my last semester, 10th semester, my external juror. So in design education, you have juries, right? Like be it architecture or UX.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my external jury, the person genuinely asked me this question: that how could you do this work being here in this location, being in this college? And I told him that was possible because of two reasons. One, I had a very good mentor. And you said very correctly that being a mentor and being a teacher is a very different thing. And second, that point was in my life when I started self learning through YouTube, and I started learning one new thing every day, which made me, separate myself from the herd I was in, right? And that is very critical, which currently it is very difficult for students to understand because there is abundance of data, and that is because it's abundance of data, it is very difficult for them to navigate it, how to find the good data, good courses, good boot camps.
Mm-hmm.
So trial and error, and I think that was one of the point which even in the group we had, right, where how do we find a good mentor, or how do we find good courses, or boot camps? Genuinely, it's a trial and error. If you don't have that patience for you, you cannot navigate in professional life, because professional life is very different from what you learn in graduation. And that is also one of the biggest advantage or disadvantage of formal education, that it has a big disconnect from professional life.
Yeah.
And
So one thing which I wanted to check with from Inder is, because I could see like he's graduating in this September, but he has already like
exactly.
worked and done
Yes.
internships, and this is something which I'm finding a lot with the folks who are like passing out in last 2 3 years. That by the time they finish their graduations, they are going out and hunting for internships and external learning experiences. So, Inder, like, is it like something which you were told from like your teachers, or is it something which in the peer group is something which came along for you?
Peer group as in,
So
uh,
basically, from your, like, let's say, was it like a discussion, or was it something, a decision you made as part of your meeting your friends? Like, okay, we need to go out and find some additional experiences.
so for me it was pretty different. So
Mm-hmm.
so in my class, or in my university, we were a bunch of 20 students in one class, and I used to be the most, the most curious one, and I used to stay at one place. That's one thing which people always used to complain. And this actually happened. So I actually found a mentor. So the way I found a mentor was actually very controversial. So that was a bit, we had a very passive aggressive, conversation, and then later he realized that, okay, I might invest time on it. But again, I would like to tell it was mostly your interest, be
Mm-hmm.
it a formal education or traditional education. It all depends on, how much can you push yourself. And 4 years back, I had that uh, I had that zeal. I'm like, this is not working out, I have to move out, because I know I can do something better. And and to do something better, I have to push through the glass ceiling. And that's how I found a mentor. But now, when I find my super juniors, or when I have the new batch coming setting in, they're already spoon fed or pre equipped. Like, you study, you find a mentor, you connect with mentor. And in my university itself, you have a mentor mentee sessions where
Mm-hmm.
the students are assigned a mentor, irrespective
Correct.
of what courses they take. You have a mentor who is specialized in it, and each mentor has around five mentees around them. So back in my time, it was very different. Mentor mentee was a very upcoming concept, and it was more like you had to showcase or you had to prove yourself why you would be a better mentee to the mentor, and that's how it picked up for me. So I went and challenged something with a teacher of mine, and he used to come from NIF to teach us.
Mm-hmm.
So he used to come only 3 days in a week. So I had to devise a plan. How can I capture his attention? Because he was a very busy person. He just walks in and zooms out before you could realize what happened. And slowly, and like we're just proving, you just have to keep pushing yourself. And one thing which mentors look for is not for the clarity in design concepts or the finesse in it, but what they especially want to see is that no matter what, you have that zeal and hardworking nature, and you're able to push through challenges. You're able to walk around challenges, and you don't just look at a problem and go straight ahead at it, but you try to pinpoint it from different directions. You try to blow it up, break it down to small chunks, and see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But now, uh, when I'm reflecting back to my super juniors, it feels like they have it all there. There is there's mentors, there's mentee, there's everybody. It's like a very close bubble which has been created, which had been created, and now the students now don't appreciate it, the value of it. They're like, no, yeah, we have a mentor, and any doubts we go talk to them and all. And again, coming back to the industry gap, which Prain was telling us about, it's actually true. Because in college, I have learned about all the design concepts and aspects and how do I go about it. But when I move to the industry, there is a lot of change. There's like business metrics, the stakeholders. You have to look at a problem through a design systems perspective, which the college does not actually equip. It's like problem, ideation, solution, and you're done.
The cookie cutter
So
system. But yeah. But yes, one good thing which a point which I wanted to move towards, and the thanks for bringing it up. That now somebody like us, like Priyan and myself, who has been like on the older side of age brackets, uh, feel that okay, things are moving fast. But now considering you are about to pass out and you are yourself are feeling somebody who has come just 3 or 4 years after you is getting a different environment, so that shows that the speed at which things have changed. And with the whole advent of chat gpt, opening up the whole space of AI being accessible to nearly everybody with not much of a guardrails, I would say. So for personally for myself, I'm a little apprehensive about the whole AI part, so like usage of AI for work or for studies. But I know that Prayan has been really somebody who's into it and being like studying it. So I wanted to understand, like with this whole AI, and AI is a very broad term, to be very frank. It's not
Mhm.
like one word and everything. So it's like machine learning is there, you have chatbots and everything in it. So how does that change the way somebody would learn now? Like somebody's learning in 2014 or 2015, to say, like how would that change?
Correct. I think there are two few points which you both brought up, which I would really love to little bit explain, and then I'll move on to quickly to AI part. One was when always see, and this is something I have seen across generations. We start talking in perspective that what we had, the newer generation is very blessed to have that, but they are not appreciative of that. What I have observed as an educator is if the education system allows the students to grow, no matter what generation it is, they have tremendous potential, especially Gen Z, because they are tech, I would say, tech born,
Yeah.
right? They're born in this generation where they have not seen what was there before, but they're looking forward to a very new future. And they have a lot of distractions. And that is where education systems should be more active and more adaptive than YouTube and other movies we see. That is something the formal education or traditional education is not able to support, because there is a fixed curriculum which was written 5 years back.
Mm.
it is very difficult for educators to mold that for newer generation. And because of that, when I quit, not I wouldn't say when I quit, but when I quit my last formal education job, there was a new batch in architecture. And architecture is 5 years course, right? I
Yeah.
told them this, that if you're not self motivated and if you don't learn yourselves, by the time of you graduate, by the time of your graduation, I will be amongst the persons who will be responsible for not having a job, right? And that I will, tie back to the AI and the world we live in currently. It's been So I have been following and researching AI since 5 years. And I have written papers which includes how we can use AI responsibly. As you said, there are no guardrails, or so it says,
Hmm.
right? But how can we use AI for better education and better professional life? And how can we use that for balancing all of this? As you said, AI is a very broad and generic term. But if we talk about only few things, let's say LLMs or chatbots which run on large language models such as
Hmm.
ChatGPT, Bard, Cloud, or even open source models such as Mistral. As a student today, I should not have an assignment, first of all, which relies just on essays. Okay, because I have the power to tell this chatbots to write it for me. So educators needs to be really smart as to how the students can use the cognition. Coming to the student's perspective, student needs to personalize their education by this. What
Hmm.
they can do is they can record the lecture notes, of course with the consent of the faculty and the university, and then they can process that videos or that audio files, use that transcript and create quick notes so that they can learn from it very
Hmm.
quickly and very promptly, right? So there is an application called Google Notebook LM. It's not open for India and other countries, it's only US only. But you can use VPN. Now, what it can do is you can add textbook over there, and then you can have a conversation with the textbook
Hmm.
in any language you want. So now even language is not a barrier,
Barrier.
especially when we talk about traditional education. It relies heavily on English, which has its pros and cons, especially
Yeah.
when we talk about tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So those students can genuinely learn in their own mother tongue and understand the concepts which were very difficult to understand otherwise.
Hmm.
Next, there are resources such as brilliant.org. Of course, it's for science, but there are such resources even for design where there are interactive exercises which actually helps our cognition to be used, and it is hands-on exercises to be done. Lastly, get yourself immersed in WhatsApp and Discord communities, I would say, right? Because that's where the actual meat is, where
Hmm.
professionals and students and everybody is talking and sharing their thoughts. And I think that is the reason we are doing this today, right? Because there was certain things, certain conversations happening, and we thought we must address this because these are things which are important. So if I am a student today, I would, heavily use it, heavily use this technology, break down what I can't know, just consume whatever there is for free. First of all, on YouTube, as you said, like you can discover a lot of things and you can understand what you want to learn and what you don't want to learn. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, we are living in a very strange time because in the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to be very difficult if you don't know what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I don't agree with the notion when people are saying that AI will take my job, because to act, or sorry, to direct, you need to act first, right? So if I don't know what type of acting I want from my actor, I can't become a director.
Yes.
If I don't know any fundamentals of design or basics of design, I don't know what I'm going to type in Mid Journey. It's going to be just a block,
Yeah.
right? So traditional or non-traditional, being self-motivated and utilizing the tech you have, that is really really important, I would say.
Mhm. Also, one thing with like I know that for developers, AI is being used now for screening or for like the initial interview rounds.
Correct.
Do you think that that might start happening for even like design roles, because design role interviews
Yes.
are slightly different. So, uh, okay, so you think that's scope?
A lot of startups are
That's
already
actually
working on that
happening.
concept. Yeah,
Ah, oh,
exactly.
great.
That's
So there
actually
are
happening.
Mm-hmm.
pre-recorded videos,
Mm-hmm.
and then so even my own brother, he was working on a similar concept where, because the AI can create real-time videos and it can analyze what you said,
Mm-hmm.
it will generate a real-time video based on your answers,
Ah. So in
which
the
gives
river,
you.
yeah, in the river saying that it's there, or have you like interacted with folks who have been through it, or yourself have you been through any such?
I have actually been through it
Mm-hmm.
quite
Mm-hmm.
recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I also had my friends who had worked on such models and who helped build such models.
Mm-hmm.
But usually, when you talk about AI or any computer generated or human centric design, it works on keywords and prompts, right?
Yeah.
And one challenge which I always felt is that let's it's one of the in one of the interviews, an AI generated a chatbot asked me explain the game Snake and Ladder as you would explain it to a 3 year or a 5 year old, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when you're in the process of explaining or typing it, the AI only looks for keywords. The AI does not analyze the overall structure, but it generally looks at the keywords. Are the keywords matching to what has been inputted? And if the input is not matching to what the output I'm giving, then the AI would basically tell I'm not right. I can paraphrase it in a different vocabulary. I can paraphrase it in a different structure, but it's always
Mm-hmm.
going to be the same. I also had a friend who interviewed for IBM. The entire process until the final one was all automated.
Ah,
So
interesting.
yeah, he was interviewing for IBM United States.
Ah.
So the entire process was very automated, very crisp, and very on the point. When somewhere I feel in a traditional interview you could talk. You had that fluidity between the interviewer as well as yourself, and you had a lot of soft language, like a soft language which you could convey. But through AI is more focused. AI is only cares about your answers. AI is like right and wrong. I do not really mind about what's happening around. And somewhere I feel it is very important to gauge, or to understand a person not just by the qualification, but also there are many other soft skills and many other read between the lines notions which actually help around. And somewhere
So I
AI
think,
tends to not hit the mark out there.
Yeah,
but Inder, I
obviously that
think
that expectation I would say is too early to
Yeah.
no, no,
have.
no. But I would like to differ a little bit. What
Mhm.
you said, right, in the like that those processes still doesn't use real time LLMs,
Yes, agreed.
because if you have LLMs in the background, I don't. I mean, you must have seen, but OpenAI recently had a keynote speech, right? Over there, the LLM was able to humanize its emotions as well as understand your emotions. So it
Hmm.
understood that you are breathing heavily, and it told you to not do that because you seem nervous. So we are going towards that. What you talked about is ATS, where keyword focused question answers
Huh.
matter,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? But right now, IBM or any other big companies, they already are working on these projects. Because see, I mean, talking strictly from the business perspective, they have tons and tons of resumes to filter through.
Yeah.
If they will try to humanize this process, it's going to be very difficult. Otherwise, I believe what you said, right? Like, if that were not the case, me and Makran would never had a job in this field, because our qualifications doesn't match with this
Yeah.
industry standards,
Yeah.
right? So definitely, I mean,
Yeah.
humanization is important for when we talk about AI, but we are moving towards that very
Yeah.
We are
quickly,
moving towards it.
very
And
quickly.
then one thing which is actually quite interesting when it comes to design is that no 2 days are same. Every day things change.
Every day
Every
new
day,
tools, new things come out. Yes.
what was a trend today is they get very obsolete by the end of the week. So that's something which is quite that works as a pro and a con
Yeah.
because keeping up with ever growing needs is also a challenge, but looking
So
forward to new things is good.
yeah, so basically, I think that this whole discussion of AI in design specifically like that, we can have a much much more different and much more
Different
longer one.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's another session to do ever. So I would say like right now we still have like we have four people. Very happy that beyond three of us there are four more people in the chat.
Amazing.
Yeah. So anybody has any questions which they would like to get answered or want us to discuss with about it, please you can post in the chat, and we can bring it up.
If by the time somebody does that,
Hmm.
so have you read Chaos Theory?
Ages I had read about it long time back. I have not much
Right.
recall about it.
Because so basically chaos theory suggests what Inder was saying, right? Like as designers, we were not just design, any creative fields, we think that, you know, every day is different and there are infinite number of ways it could go. But what chaos theory says suggests is the preliminary situation can define actually where you will end. So it is not that random, so our lives are not that random if you see that ways. And so even the design process and the design industry itself has a very strong logical side to it, and it
Yeah.
is not based strictly on inspirations. It has a very parametric way of evolving. So if you study chaos study, it says that the entire that everything works with predefined rules. It may seem random, but it is not. And that is one of the biggest reasons that Stephen Hawking, before he died, right, he suggested that AI will be very difficult to control if we are not, good, like if we don't understand what we're doing with it.
Basically, till the time it remains a black box, it's a challenge to handle, which is
Correct,
right
correct.
now the condition with most of the
Exactly.
AIs
And that
across.
is why more and more conversation should happen within formal education as well, where
Hmm.
we are able to tell students as well as emerging professionals that what it is actually and what isn't. Otherwise, we can quickly go into a chaotic times and it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, let's not end it on a sort of a pessimistic note. Uh, it's so
Sure.
okay. There are no questions today, which is fine. But I think this gives us idea that basically the whole point which we wanted to bring in was that traditional education is helpful for somebody who wants a structure for their learning setup, but it also needs to be updated with times. And one way which like Inder has done, or like most of the other students do, like they go out and seek additional learnings. And I'm very happy to hear that there is a mentee mentorship structure coming up in colleges. That is a great thing,
It
because
is regulated by
those.
UGC,
Hmm?
actually. It is a compulsion by UGC.
Oh,
It's a rule.
that's
Yeah.
no, that's an
It's a
interesting
rule
one.
now coming up. Yeah.
Okay, there is a side effect of a rule. Like sometimes you will like get paired up even if you don't want to, and those things will
That's
happen. That's
majority of the times.
yeah. But at least that system is now being put in place, and it's just totally going to be very helpful for anybody who is coming in. And another point, just to close up, like basically what Priyan had brought up, like expand your learnings beyond just YouTube. Try to join communities. And this is more for like young designers or like those who are in college about learning about design. Like go for your meetups. Go and meet as many people as possible to get actual marketplace perspectives, because as Inder just said, what's trend today might not be a trend tomorrow. By the time you pass out, like maybe like Figma becomes a thing which is old, and now there's a new tool you require a 10-year experience on which does not exist. So
Exactly.
it's like just keep yourself abreast. And I think way we are thinking is maybe we might do something like this again soon, focusing on AI in design and such topics. And after this, if you feel any things you want us to talk about, and even if you like to participate in this, please feel free. And but it was a great discussion to have, especially on the evening. So have a good day, and enjoy learning. Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Definitely, it was an amazing
Thank
session, I think,
Yeah.
and we were able to bring in something which we have been,
yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Talking about, yes. Okay. So yeah.